this is only going to, it's going to max out at 80%. Fannie Mae is not going to go over 80. FHA will go up to 83.3%. They used to, for their normal market rate program, the 223. They used to go 85, and they used to offer a 7.5% second, or allow for a 7.5% seller second. Now they just do 83.3%, and they'll refi you up to 80. So that's the difference. What you'll find in certain markets where, and everybody in this room is looking for real value, looking for real deals. You're looking in certain markets that offer those types of spreads. What you're going to find in a lot of those markets is that Fannie Mae has outlined them or has a certain concern about that market, and they may cap the leverage that they're going to offer, meaning they're going to offer only 65% loan to value. Those markets are called pre-review markets. Pre-review markets. They don't change dramatically. They don't change rapidly, monthly, or anything like that. But your staple pre-review markets are Florida, and states and cities both. Florida, Indiana, Michigan is actually 55%. That's considered a tier 2, tier 4 deal, tier 4 property. State. Michigan, Indiana, New Orleans, Atlanta, Phoenix. These are some of the markets where there's some real value, some real distressed areas, but Fannie's limiting how much they lend there. And the term pre-review is put together because they want to see the loan prior to issuing any type of approval on it. And how that comes about is through their DUS lending program, DUS, Delegated Underwriting and Servicing Program. They have approved right around 25, 26 different lenders. I think it's shrunk down now. They have approved certain lenders to go out into the marketplace and underwrite loans and fund those loans and then sell those loans to Fannie Mae within 30 to 45 days of closing. Those are called DUS lenders, delegated. They've been delegated to underwrite and service Fannie Mae loans. Well, that privilege is not given to them in those certain markets that we talked about. That's why they call them pre-review markets. And how that affects you as a borrower, again, you're going to lower your loan to value, and it's very rare that we would get any type of exception on some of the borrower requirements for these loans. Standard borrower requirements for the permanent loans like this is a cumulative net worth of the key principal team equal to what the loan amount is. It's not you individual, but it's everybody. And again, it's not the purchase price, it's the loan amount. So it's not as onerous as you might think, because your key principal team is everybody combined together. They want to see liquidity of somewhere between 10% of the loan amount and 12 months worth of payments. But again, what we're looking for here is the refinance of a stabilized property. Most of you are not going right in there with a Fannie Mae loan right off the bat. If you are, those are the characteristics you would have, but from what I'm gathering and what I'm seeing, most everybody wants to come in and buy a distressed property. So, yes?
What are those liquidity and net worth requirements for those bridge loans?
Great point. Bridge lenders make it up as they go. Bridge lenders have more of a gut feeling, a make sense underwriting of who they're going to work with and who they won't. And later on, we go into kind of what some of those hot buttons are. But they don't have the same criteria. But it's interesting to note, they are very much aware of the permanent market. And there's a reason for that, is because the permanent market, the perm loan market, is what's paying them back. That's where they're getting their money. I mention it a little bit later, but there's different types of of payoffs, of how they're going to get their money back. One is a refinance, and the other is disposition. So to sell the property is not as attractive to them because then you're waiting around for the borrower. There's a lot of other variables involved. But if they feel that this property is bankable and this borrower is bankable, and they can see where this property is going, they can see the same vision, now you're talking about the lender getting comfortable with the exit strategy. So the circumstance where, and this is kind of bringing everything together of why are we talking about these two loan types, utilizing a bridge loan and then a perm loan. It's the turnaround that we've been talking about. It's the turnaround that I think everybody's looking for, is when you find the distressed property, you go in there, you apply elbow grease, you pretty it up, you bring it up to stabilization, however you do that, whether it's through bricks and sticks, rehab, just bringing units online, whether it's a management issue, which, by the way, it's always a management issue. When you try and tell the value story to a bridge lender, something above and beyond a management issue, you really should be said. Just make a little side note of that. Management issues are usually the common excuse of, I can do it better. When that happens, then they're gonna ask why, the common terminology. So just keep that in mind. Let's say you see a value for an auction property. Right now, there's a lot of properties that are being run by management companies that are owned by the lenders. And those things are being run extremely fat. Expenses, I'm assuming some people have looked at some deals and you see $6,500 a unit expenses and $7,500 unit expenses, and those property managers are spending that money. And you could buy a property that is stabilized, but you have to act fast. They don't want to wait the 60 days for a Fannie Mae loan to get done. So that's another scenario where the value is there to take advantage of either a discounted payoff or take advantage of a property that's owned by the lender, but they want their money now. So that's when you're going to talk to a bridge lender, go in there and take it down to realize that value. Both scenarios, for the buy and hold, like most of these people are going to be refinanced by a perm loan. You have to, otherwise it's just going to be crippling to stay with those rates. Getting into your point, how are they underwriting it? Because we talked about how Fannie Mae underwrites it, what FHA looks for. Bridge lenders, they want to see a financially sound borrowing team. Reason being, the property is distressed. The property needs help. It needs someone to be there to inject the cash that it needs or to give it the direction of the management issue. So they do want to see some financial strength in the property team, and this is good for you because partnerships are important in here. I don't know if Sue's connected on that, but the success that I see in the industry with my clients are teams of people. I rarely see one individual come out and do it on their own. Now, I talk to a lot of individuals that plan on coming out of the box and doing it on their own because they're just not really comfortable with a partner. They never have been. I had a tire shop and I had a partner and he just really took advantage of me and it didn't work out there. Getting involved in these things with like-minded individuals, because the country's a big place. Running one of these properties is a lot of different skill sets. And I don't know if Sue talked to you about her beginnings and where it came, but things for her really started to take off through the alliances that she built. And that's, when we talk about financial strength of the borrowing team, remember, leverage who you can, leverage the handshakes, leverage the people that you talk to in events like this, because that's what's going to make the difference. It's rare that one individual just comes out of the box and knocks the cover off the ball on a deal. Being able to show the lender that you've got a clear path and you know how to manage a property is crucial. Once again, they don't want to own the property. Most lenders don't. It's not a lend to own program, which I tease some of my loan officers about. Oh, you just lend to own, because they're just eyeballing it and they want to buy it for 65% less than you're buying it for. That's not the case. It might seem like that sometimes, but it's not the case. They don't want to own the property. They want to see that you've got a clear understanding of the market. They want to see that you've got a clear understanding of what it's going to take to turn this property around, meaning quotes on any repairs, definitive quotes. not an eyeball guess by walking the property. Knowledge of the surrounding area, knowledge of where the market's going, any new developments that are coming in, job growth, through corporations, being involved in the EDC and knowing where the local community is going, being able to talk about those things, it's going to give the lender a comfort level that you've studied it, you understand what's going on, and you know where the value is, and that's going to be really important. I said it earlier, it's make sense underwriting. You know, that's what they're looking to impose. These guys are the same way that you put together a property package for your investors to raise capital. Has everybody gone through that and talked about, working with investors and raising money, bringing in partners for your equity injection? Has most everybody talked about that? No? It's commonplace. It's very common to bring in investors. Well, that's what these bridge lenders have done as well. Okay, so when they have to justify who they lent this money to their investors, it's got to make sense. And that's essentially what you're looking to provide to them. Okay? Another aspect of it is the location of the property. Most of the bridge lenders stay within a region. If you're talking with a Texas lender, a lot of times they won't go outside of Texas. They might go to Oklahoma, but that's it. I have one bridge lender that will only lend in Florida and Texas. I have one lender that will only lend in about 2 different zip codes in Chicago. And why do you think that is? Because it's his own money, out of his own pocket. And he wants to be able to drive by the property. But he did a pet cemetery for me. So, I know, but we got a nice memorial mausoleum set up, or whatever it was called. It was a nice little deal, but that's the kind of thing, the quirky little loans like that, they're very regional because they want to be able to drive by, they want to have a clear understanding themselves of where the market is. So if you talk to a lender out of New York, they're usually not going to feel real comfortable putting money out in Phoenix. All right, you're at least going to want to be some of the western states, and we're going to look out there for where you're going to get your money. One of the other aspects that they're focused on is what the permanent market is doing. We touched on it a little bit earlier, but remember, knowing the perm market, knowing what FHA is putting out, what Fannie Mae is putting out, is crucial when you're talking to your bridge lenders. And they ask me this a lot too. They lean on me for being able to take them out, and I'll get a call. If it's a 2-year loan, I'll get a call a year into it. How's things looking? Are we going to, how's the property doing? Are we able to get something done and get this thing refied? It's more of a personal relationship than it is with your permanent lenders. Your permanent lenders, you're in place and you start to work with the servicing company, make your payments, run your property, make your money. Your bridge lenders, they kind of want to know what's going on. They're going to be talking to you, and they're going to be a little bit more relationship based because the fuse is a little bit shorter. So keep that in mind. Yes.
For the bridge loan experience, how much does that weigh into the underwriting process?
It does weigh into it. The bridge lenders are going to look at professional management, and they're going to look at it a little bit more lenient than. Excuse me, I pulled my back out, so I'm moving around kind of. It's touchy. They're going to look at professional management a little bit more lenient than permanent lenders will. Perm lenders, it used to be you could go out and put third-party management in place, whether you had any experience or not. And if you were across the country, it wasn't a big deal. You just had a good management company, and everything was smooth. Right now, they're looking for a little bit more. They want to see some ownership that's closer to where the property is. They're not as lenient on absentee ownership. Bridge lenders, if you think of it this way, if you're a year and a half into a bridge loan and you've run the property successfully and demonstrated that you can turn it around, the perm lender says, all right, this guy has obviously maintained this property. He has a good solid handle in the market. So by the time you go to the permanent lender to refi, you've established a footprint in that market. chances are you own another property. You probably took advantage of another deal. But that's why bridge lenders are going to be a little bit more lenient on absentee ownership, because when they get their money back, when you go for refinance, you will have established a track record. Yep. So a little bit, what did we talk about? We've talked about, this is important. This is very, very attractive. It's only been out there for about a year or so, but it's a nice tool. And I hope I'm not running over on time. I keep checking, but I don't want to burn up too much time. But this is good. You're going to want to know this. The DUS lenders that we talked about earlier for Fannie Mae, does everybody remember that? Okay. They have their own individual loan programs that they're offering. Not all of them, but most of your small balance, there's a new aspect of it too. Most of your small balance DUS lenders are now putting out their own bridge program. And that's big. That's very big, because you can develop a relationship with this lender early on. And you can get in. You buy a property that's, say, 75% occupied, right? But it's running on a nice clip, and they like the market. One of your agency lenders puts a bridge loan on that. 18 months, a year, 2 years later, you refinance that into a perm loan. You've already established a relationship. You've broken down so many of the initial barriers as far as getting this thing to permanent financing. It's phenomenal. So it's really great that you can establish those relationships early. And to me, what it says, it's a show of faith in the market. The bigger picture says these lenders are out there saying, hey, we want to get involved early. We want to bring these owner-operators into our camp and develop relationships with them and give them that show of faith so that when it's time to refinance, they're going to come to us. As far as the terms on those notes, characteristics, they're usually 2 years, like we'd said. There might be some extensions, a couple 6-month extensions, but normally 24 months. The rates are risk-based. They don't like to say that, but they are risk-based. You're probably not going to see one below 6% unless it's 15, 20, 30 million, maybe more. Your mainstream deals, say between $1 million and, $5 million and $15 million, they're going to go off somewhere between 6%, and I have 8 there. They could go to 9. But 6 to 8 is a solid range when you're calculating your deals. Interest only. There's not going to be a recourse guarantee on it. They're not going to ask for that. They would ask for, they may ask for the carve-outs depending on how the legal documentation is, but for the most part, they're going to be a non-recourse loan. And the prepayment penalty is interesting because the plan is that you're going to refinance with them. That's the intention of this whole program, is that you give them the business on the refi and then the loan gets sold to Fannie Mae. If you were to refi with someone else, now you're not really leaving with the one that brought you. So you may incur an exit fee at that point. Usually maybe 1% is going to be written into the docs. 2% would be a little onerous, but 1% would be a reasonable exit fee. And I think everybody would agree that if they're willing to extend that bridge loan to you, and then the caveat is that you stick with them, I think that's a pretty solid deal. I think that's reasonable. So that bridge program is very attractive. It's makes me very happy. Yes.
You say interest only?
Interest only.
Can be, or they are interest?
They will be interest only. Yeah, there's no principal pay down. And that's typically because you're getting into this property unstabilized. You should be able to realize a value there. So principal reduction is not really the goal. At this point, the goal would be to make sure that this property stays flush with cash as possible, still maintaining interest payments to the lender, but they're not looking to restrict you and reduce principal, because there should be, upon stabilization, there should be much more value there. So that's why an interest-only loan makes sense. On all the bridge loans that we talked about, interest-only loan would make sense. So in summary, some of the key factors looking back at what we talked about: know your exit strategy. When you're talking to a bridge lender, know your exit strategy. What are they, when you loan somebody money, What's your biggest concern? Get it back. So that's that know your exit strategy. Like we said before, if it's a refinance, that is more attractive to them. That is more attractive because they know the market, they see that you're committed to it. In the case of a disposition, it adds so many new factors to it. Can the buyer get approved? What's it going to go for? They're not really looking to complicate things when you say you're going to sell the property. So a refinance would be the desired exit strategy. Know your markets. Like we talked about earlier, make sure that when you talk to a lender, your requirements for a property are higher than theirs. That's why she's been successful. Well, one of the reasons why she's been successful is because her criteria is greater than what the lenders are looking for. And they see her, she's going to make their job easier because she knows her plans, she knows where the property's going and what the drivers are to turn it around. She knows those drivers. So keep that in mind as when you talk to these guys, they're going to ask questions that they have about the market, have the answers. Because remember, you're on the same side of the transaction as they are. Lenders are not against you. Lenders are on your side of the transaction, and when you succeed, they succeed. So you want the same thing out of the transaction. They are a tremendous asset to you. Keep that in mind. She mentioned it earlier about utilizing representation in the case of an assumption or owner financing. Why do you think that's important? It's important because a lender does certain due diligence and requires certain due diligence that you may not as an investor. I've seen live examples of this where someone is so excited to get into a property, they're going to skip certain important aspects of the due diligence and not uncover an issue that they should. A lender takes more of a calculated approach, no emotion in it. This lender is not looking for their first deal and getting excited because they're going to get in the game. They want to know they're going to get their money back. So it takes that emotion away from it, and it can be a valuable, valuable asset. So remember that. When you're talking to them, you're comfortable. You do it all the time. And the only way to accomplish that, and I'm sure we've got experienced professionals in here. We've got a lot of people that are successful in other markets. It's transferable skills. Anytime that you've been confident, it's because you were prepared, right? You've done your homework. You know the market. There's no guesswork. You're confident this is going to work out. And you're confident that you are bringing this lender a great opportunity that he can present to his investors. As long as you take that attitude and that mentality, it's going to be a solid relationship. Because you don't want the deal to fail, neither do they, right? Carry that with you. Everybody has my contact information. Please feel free to connect with me with any questions or follow-ups or anything like that. I'm going to be here until tomorrow, probably midday, maybe a little bit later, maybe a little bit earlier, but I'll be here for any questions or anything you have. So feel free to drop me a line, and thanks for letting me bend your ears.